Welcome to our panel on the Australian Ad Observatory. Of course, I'd like to begin by acknowledging we're meeting on the unceded land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and this land has always been a place of gathering and learning. I pay my respects to elders past and present and acknowledge the contributions of them and Indigenous people to our intellectual communities. My name is Nicholas Carah. I'm the Director of Digital Cultures and Societies at the University of Queensland and an Associate Investigator in ADM+S. And this morning, I'm going to speak on behalf of and with many researchers who work on the Ad Observatory across almost every node in the centre. We launched the Ad Observatory in October 2021 to investigate the digital advertising that Australians see. We've recruited 1,909 Australian citizen scientist participants who've donated a total of 328,000 unique ads across 737,000 observations from their Facebook news feeds. Our partnership with the ABC has been really instrumental in engaging and recruiting participants for the Ad Observatory. If you look very closely at this graph, you can see the moment the ABC started including a call to participate in our project, and we thank them, we thank Casey and all the people at the ABC we work with. Our participants also come from all over the country, and they've donated to us the largest collection of digital ads that Australians see. What is the value of a donated collection of digital ads, and what does it tell us about the future of automated media and advertising? Ads are a persistent and ubiquitous part of our media culture. We can't move around the world without seeing them, hearing them, swiping past them, yet we often treat them like they're a kind of ephemeral cultural detritus. We find it hard to believe that the continuous background hum of advertising persuades or induces us, but ads organise the rhythms of everyday life in our consumer cultures. They lay out the tracks we travel in acquiring the goods and services that make up our sense of a good life. And advertising was at the heart of the mass consumer society, the rise of the mass consumer society in the 20th century, underpinning the business models of many of the media organisations we study, and shaping our aspirations and identities. Since the late 1990s, though, the mass and public advertising of the 20th century has become increasingly personalised and dark. The cookie, created to keep products in our virtual shopping trolley as we moved around the web, opened up the capacity to track us and from there to personalise the ads, products, search results and stories that we see. And a new kind of advertiser-funded media emerged across search and social media platforms where ads could be sold without having to invest in the production of content. The rivers of gold that once flowed through print and broadcast media and funded the production of news and entertainment began to flow through digital platforms like Alphabet and Meta, where they funded engineers and automation. Piece by piece, digital platforms automated the collection of data, the targeting of ads, and the construction of audiences. And with the launch of custom and lookalike audiences from the mid-2010s, the automation of audience building and ad assembly became increasingly more associative and probabilistic. Advertisers no longer necessarily name specific criteria, but let the ad model test and refine audiences over time, tuning them towards certain actions, dwelling on content, tapping a button, making a purchase. And we're now this year witnessing the rise of the automation of ad content itself. Alphabet recently announced that advertisers will be able to supply creative and a generative algorithmic model will remix the ads. And in March this year, Levi has announced a partnership with the digital agency La La Land to use generative AI to create diverse synthetic fashion models. The Verge reported this would allow customers to see clothing on body-inclusive models spanning a wide range of body types, ages, sizes, and skin tones. Digital platforms' advertising model is often described as dark, and we mean that in two senses. First, the ads are only visible to the individual served the ad and only for a moment in time. And secondly, the automated models that serve ads are increasingly inscrutable. The paradox of digital advertising is that at the moment in history, where media and advertisers know more than ever about us, we know less than ever about them, and this development is a profound one. All forms of public understanding of advertising that were developed in the 20th century ultimately rested on its publicness. Platforms like Meta and Alphabet have begun to respond to some of these issues by providing libraries that make digital advertising transparent by publishing huge libraries of ads, but without any explanation of who sees the ads, when, how often, why, or with what effect. We don't exactly need libraries, we need observatories. observatories that facilitate meaningful explanation not only of the ads that were published, but how automated models optimize the flow of ads and tune their composition and placement for particular consumers. Do some people see more alcohol ads or more gambling ads, less finance and housing ads, less job ads? Are some people's ads more pink, more rainbow, more green, more grey? Do some people see different images, text, prices, sales promotion, and buttons? Researchers and investigative journalists have demonstrated that you can choose to deliver job ads to people that discriminate by age and housing ads that discriminate by race. But even when the ad model restricts advertisers from using categories related to race, gender, or age, as many now have, the model learns to target based not on who we are, but as Tao Fan and Scott Walk have put it, who we are proximate to. The ad observatory then is not just a collection of ads. We follow who sees what. We can also see metadata like the waste, why am I seeing this ad tags, that give us a glimpse of why people are seeing particular ads. We can see how we are categorized and how we are associated with one another. And we can also track changes in ad formats. For instance, many digital ads are now also tappable buttons that directly integrate advertising with retail. And we can see what kinds of advertisers are using buttons to convert their calls to action. The Australian Ad Observatory is the kind of project that you can only undertake in a centre of excellence like ADM+S, where we can develop the research infrastructure and a seriously interdisciplinary team of researchers, data engineers, and partner organisations. Researchers from computer science, law, sociology, media and cultural studies with diverse questions and approaches. And we also bring many of these questions and complications to our extraordinarily industrious and skillful and obliging data engineer, Abdul Obeid. Where are you, Abdul? Good to see you, as always. The Ad Observatory also involves collaboration with many partners who have a stake in the accountability and explainability of digital advertising, including Choice, the Consumer Policy Research Centre, the Foundation for Alcohol Research, and the ABC. Many of our partners are here today. And we've worked with them in public events, a hackathon, investigative reporting, and sustained policy engagement, including meetings with senators, MPs, and policymakers. Digital platforms should be required to enable meaningful observability of their advertising models. The value of the Ad Observatory is not just what we find, but in the demonstration of an infrastructure for accountable automated media. In this morning's session, we're going to both showcase what the Ad Observatory makes possible, and we're going to talk with a panel of industry experts to figure out what ad observatories in the coming decade might need to be able to do. So we'll begin with 3 lightning talks. Dr. Cesar Albarán Torres will talk about gambling. Cesar is an affiliate investigator with ADM+S at Swinburne University. Lauren Hayden will talk about alcohol. Lauren is a PhD candidate with ADM+S and working on an ARC linkage project with FAIR. And Professor Christine Parker will talk about greenwashing. Christine is a chief investigator in ADM+S and a professor of law at Melbourne Law School. And following these 3 talks, we'll move to a panel discussion about the dynamic, present, and future of automated advertising with Jonas Yanumagi from the Interactive Advertising Bureau, Charmaine Griffiths from VMLY&R, and Richard Warwick from Custom Media, and Professor Jean Burgess from ADM+S. So firstly, over to you, Cesar.
So it is quite interesting to talk about the future of advertising in a category that might have no future. In early July, there was a parliamentary committee that released a proposal for a complete ban of gambling ads in a phased structure within the next 3 years. The committee chair and Labour MP Peter Murphy said, so the committee heard evidence to suggest that changing things here and there, such as the limitations on advertising during sport events, for instance, are not going to do anything. What we need is a comprehensive ban. So what does the committee see? The committee is focused mainly on broadcast media, such as television, radio, print, where 2 things are easier than in online platforms. One, defining what gambling is. It's very clear that sports betting, for instance, is gambling. It is not clear, however, if new forms of social media gambling, if new forms of digital gambling, such as cryptocurrency gambling, are gambling or not, or social casino apps, which simulate gambling. this report is not very precise in how it deals with social media. And that's what the Ad Observatory contributes to. Wagering service providers are self-regulating. So what we're looking at in our Facebook sample is how this regulation happens or doesn't happen, which is often the case. What we revealed so far with a sample of 5,000 ads, which accounts to roughly 10% of the whole sample that we have in the Ad Observatory, is two things. One thing, there is a hidden economy of gambling ads that escapes known brands, such as Ladbrokes, Sportsbet, what you see, during AFL or NRL matches. These include offshore casinos where, jurisdictional issues are very murky. Do they target Australians or not? They say they don't, but they have Australian flags on their ads, as we will see. There's a need for a revamped platform control. In one of our hackathons, we found some illegal ads that Casey, who's here from the ABC, followed up and tried to get, something from Meta, and it's very murky. And gambling ads are also hard to classify and regulate, as the Ad Observatory reveals. And two, it also reveals the lived experience of users, how gambling ads are bundled with other forms of financially risky products, such as Afterpay. We're also doing research on Afterpay in the Ad Observatory project. Afterpay, SIP, casual stock trading, which had an increased uptake during the pandemic with suicides in the US and very horrible things happening. And it is also increasingly hard to differentiate between gambling and gaming. How do we do this? With a roadmap of search terms that we're refining little by little, trying to see what falls outside of the usual suspects and the usual advertisers. We have found two categories of ads: over-the-surface gambling ads, which are the ones that you're likely to see in other types of media, such as TV or radio, casinos, destination gambling, sports betting, and under-the-surface gambling, such as BitStars, which is a crypto casino, or Citobox, for example, which uses the visual language and the rhetoric of other types of predatory advertisement. Like these success stories. You can't believe what happened, or keep reading to see what happened next. This is a quick graph of how the top 20 advertisers according to our sample, focus on. Obviously, sports is a big one. And what the Ad Observatory can shed light on is the smaller wedges, which are likely to have an uptake when these new regulations come in place. So social, that is social casinos, and also some gambling companies that disguise themselves as charities to make them a little bit more socially acceptable. So the Ad Observatory is looking into these, again, these segments that will have a big uptake once this ban comes into effect. Thank you. And now we have Lauren.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Hayden, and in an ongoing project with the Foundation for Alcohol Research and Education, we have collected over 85,000 alcohol ads from the Meta Ad Library, from a list of over 1,200 Australian alcohol retailers, producers, and venues. Combining this data set with ads donated to the Australian Ad Observatory, we're able to see when and where alcohol ads appear in the feeds of Facebook users. In the Ad Observatory itself, we have identified 8,151 observations of alcohol ads donated from 488 participants. This might sound like only a sliver, but I'd like to introduce you to Bruce. Bruce is a pseudonym, but a real participant in the Ad Observatory who has donated 125 alcohol ads. This clip is a group of 10 ads that Bruce has donated in one 15-minute browsing session on Facebook. 8 of these 10 ads are for wine. Looking at Bruce's sequence of ads got us thinking, what if we didn't consider our data set as 8,151 ads, but instead as 488 sequences of ads? This concept, which we refer to as an ad sequence, allows us to understand the process of association and optimization carried out by the algorithmic ad model. We can see in Bruce's sequence the ways that alcohol ads increase at certain times of the day and slow at others, and integrate into a much longer sequence of ads for real estate and lifestyle products. But in order to understand how the meta ad model serves alcohol ads, we need the ability to see user sequences at scale. We're developing techniques to visualize user sequences, such as this line chart. So right now, each line represents one particular user out of the ad observatory, where we've cumulatively plotted their ad sequence on whether they saw an alcohol ad on the y-axis and a non-alcohol ad on the x-axis. We can see in user A, they have a relatively regular cadence of alcohol and non-alcohol advertising, shown by a fairly linear pattern in their line. On the other hand, user B has longer periods without any alcohol advertising, and then punctuated by bursts of alcohol ads, which we can see in this steep increase. In future analysis, we plan to be able to construct typologies of user sequences. So rather than only two users, A and B lines would represent composite sets of users that share sequence similarities. Rather than look at libraries of single ads, we need to see how ads move in the wild while flowing under our fingers. By doing this, we reframe our questions less about ads in isolation and more about how we are immersed in particular sequences of advertising. Sequences that differ in the volume of alcohol ads, but also in their configuration of products, their calls to action, their promotional offers, and their branded appeals. Through ad sequences, we get closer to understanding the outputs of the algorithmic model that makes digital advertising powerful and a cause for public concern. Thank you.
The two previous talks highlighted how social media ads tune into users' flow of content in ways that may accentuate negative behaviour and consequent harm. Our work asks how the flow of ads mediates consumers' desire to do positive good for the environment. Are we being informed by targeted green nudges or distracted by a sea of murky sludge? Green claims are everywhere in the ad observatory. In total, our citizen scientists observed ads with green claims 55,000 times over the course of 1 year, and some are being shown hundreds of green claims, whether they're made by bricks and mortars retailers or eco-startuppers. Environmental claims are being embedded in a range of different aesthetics and narratives. The execution is often green, suggesting forests and foliage and life shooting from the ground. All you need to do is change your underwear. But green ads are not always green. They might be in muted, neutral, earthy tones, suggesting compostability, biodegradability. They might be blue, perhaps underlining our role in stopping plastic waste getting into the oceans. There are indications that the repertoire of environmental ads on offer are also being carefully calibrated to curate particular sets of images of green consumerism that might appeal to specific individuals. Is your vibe a battery of black and white and fluoro green to highlight your uncompromising commitment to climate action? Or do you like to see yourself as someone who cares for yourself, your home and your family, while also caring for the earth, a more pastel-y purple vibe? Some of us are seeing ads apparently intended to make us feel good about consumption that may not be really necessary and might even harm our health. But the more pernicious problem is the great greenwashing. The explosion in use of unsubstantiated and unevidenced green claims that consumer and environmental regulators and advocacy groups around the world are currently grappling with. We expect to see social media advertising as a key arena in which citizens' desire to do good and our belief in our own ability to be nudged to do the right thing will be manipulated and monetised for consumption via a sea of claims that coagulate into a sludge, distracting us from the need to do more to reverse global heating, address the plastic waste crisis, and create a green circular economy.